Today we're going to revisit an old artwork piece of mine, and while I'm repainting it, I'm going to be telling you about how to improve some of your art techniques. This was my second painting, and as you can see, there's a lot of thick paint on it, and I've also used too much water because it's leaked through my taping right there. See this? That is on way too thick. And why did that happen? Well, I bought my watercolor in tubes like this. And as you can see, it's more liquidy. And when you start painting immediately afterwards, it can get a little difficult to spread the paint out and make sure not to glob on too much paint. So let's see if I improved this past year. We're going to have this lovely piece here. Now, as you see, I've already sketched out the new and improved piece. And you'll see right here, there's a slight discoloration right there. That is called masking liquid or masking fluid. And the thing about this is that it's basically a protection on areas that you don't want painted. And with little areas, tiny areas, it can get hard to have your brush avoid it. But it's a nice little thing about it. And what you do, there are different ways to apply it. What I like to use is a dowel. It doesn't get like too pristine. I know there are other ways, and there's even ways to use it with a brush. When you first get it, it's gonna be a little more clumpy. So if you want to do more finer details, and I actually found it a lot easier to manage once I added 2 drops of water in it and stir. Do not shake this, stir, all right? And as you see, we've already applied it. It takes about 5 minutes. It depends how thick the masking fluid is. This must be completely dry before we get started. And since I already prepped that ahead of time, we can actually get started right now. So, let's get to it. As much as I would like to use all the same colors in the original one, I find it might be a little difficult to get my mountains to look right. Brown is an okay color, but there's something off to me about it. So what I'm going to do is get some red, bit of orange, and some dark Prussian blue, I believe is what I'm going for. Yes. We're gonna start with some red. And as you see here, we're just gonna take a tiny bit and then come out a little bit. You wanna go as light as possible. And actually, even though I have a very small piece here, I want to cover more ground. This is where the flat brush comes in. This is where, like for bigger brushes, I like to go out into the mixing well and make sure I just do that. And I want to see this. I'm gonna pinch it down and then go like that. And as you see, I actually put a little bit too much. So I'm going to dab here. And then I'm going to try to take away the excess water. We're just gonna get a nice pinkish sky. I'm gonna fade here. There we go. Now we're going to add some orange. Now sometimes you want to wait till the color dries before adding, but with something like this, you can blend. I want to be careful here because too much water will warp your page, even if you have the nicer like 140. It just basically means how much water it can take. Now, when you go to art stores, you're gonna see about a couple of different sizes, and there's 90, which is the beginner one, 140, which is the advanced, which is the one that I'm currently using, and then 300, I believe, is the professional one. And those are the more expensive ones. The higher grade paper you go up, the more expensive it gets, but also more water it can take. I keep on saying this while I'm applying more water. So what I'm doing right now is testing how wet the watercolor is. And you want to use the back of your hand, not your front, because our fingers are very oily. So, and it just helps you register how wet or how damp the paper is. I can tell that it seems dry, but it's cold to the touch. That means that it's still not dry. So we have to wait a little bit more. But we can do the different section down here, so it's not going to affect too much up there. All right, we're gonna try add a little bit more orange on the bottom. So orange can be very vibrant and it can be a little tricky to work with, I find, anyway, but that's just me. So you see I'm just trying to push most of the color down. And then I'm going to try to drag it all around and then blend it up there. I'm using the size 6 brush right now. And again, it's okay if it gets into like the other piece, if it's something like a mountain or something like that, if the color is relatively close to it. If you've done, let's say, black accidentally got in there and you try to put, like, cover it up with another color, it's black, the black is always going to show through. So we're going to just do this number, and then I want to see if I can add some more depth to the water over there. I don't think I can, without messing up things. Let's see. Yep, there's a different shade of purple right now. That's fine, we'll work with it. So right now what I'm going to do is take off the masking fluid. So this is how you remove it. You just gently roll it. And if you applied it too thick, it would actually start peeling up the paper as well. So try to get it as thin as you can. And as you see, I think I just ripped it a tiny bit because I had a little bit too much. think maybe one more in the upper. I think these were like some of my favorite clouds to paint. All right. And we're done. Now let's compare the two. As you can see, I have made improvements this past year, and I think what helps me out the most is understanding my watercolor a bit better and how the colors affect one another. Also, I am noting where my light is hitting and how it affects my shadows, making my piece a little bit more dimensional. I recommend this sort of thing for anyone who feels like they're in a rut or feeling overwhelmed, no matter what medium you're in. Even seeing the slightest improvement means you're making progress. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this repaint session, and I'll see you next week.